How's it going, guys? Gaming Goddess here with a review on Exist Arcive, The Other Side of the Sky, a Japanese role-playing game for the PlayStation Vita and PlayStation 4. The player takes control of our main character Kanata, who was sent to another world along with his friends in some sort of explosion. With the overall goal to get everyone back home, the player has 3 different endings that will determine their fate. So with that being said, let's get into the review. Exist Arcive is a role-playing game with a bit of side-scrolling. The player navigates the main map with the cursor, and once the location the player chooses is selected, loaded up, the game is now a side-scrolling platform. This style is very similar to the Valkyrie Profile series, and honestly I was expecting this to be a little more open world, or at least a semi-open world type of RPG. On the menu, the player has a couple of different options to choose from: Quest, Amatsume, Speedrun, and of course the title screen. Quests are exactly that. They have the main story quest, which will show up as a little exclamation point icon next to the location. Upon selecting the location, the quest details are shown. Now, before starting the quest, the player can change the party members, but once you start, you are stuck with that party until you finish the quest. Completing a quest, whether it's a main quest or a side quest, will raise Kanata's affection with the other characters. In fact, all characters' affection can be raised with each other. Amatsume is the protector of this other world. By visiting her, the player can offer crystals, which will advance the story and unlock a couple of different things for the player. Trade items, which gives the player AMP. AMP is the in-game currency that can be used to create weapons, armors, accessories, and items. Last, we have the Speedrun Challenge. This is where the player can face the in-game bosses and beat them in a set time limit to receive items. Of course, this feature is also linked to the PlayStation Network, so you can look at other players' rankings as well. That covers the menu section. Now let's take a closer look at some of the other features we have. Like most RPGs, we can change the character's equipment and set skills on each playable character. As a character levels up, they will gain SP, which can be spent on different skills. We have a class, attack, guard, support, and drop skill. Now, the smart thing to do would be to level up the character's class. I did not do this, and it actually made the game a little more difficult than I thought it would be. When the player's class levels up, the character will get better attacks, like Mayura, for example, will get a healing spell, so you won't have to waste your berries like I did. When on the field, the game is now a side-scrolling platform, which is pretty self-explanatory. As I mentioned before, it is very similar to the Valkyrie Profile series. As the monsters will roam around in a given area, item pods can also be found throughout the dungeons. This will now take us into the battle system. When the player sees a little shadow creature floating along the field, they can attack and start a battle. Now, if the creature touches the player first, then the enemy will obviously have the advantage. Now, the action bar at the bottom determines the number of attacks the player can perform. Keep in mind, some characters can only attack once, and items will also count as an action. Up to 4 characters can be in a party at once, Kanata and 3 others. Each character has their corresponding button depending on where you place them: X, circle, square, and triangle. Pressing these buttons, the player can make combo attacks on the enemy. Once a battle is finished, the player is rewarded with experience points and sometimes items. The Demon's Greed gauge in the lower left-hand side of the screen will fill up as the player attacks an enemy. This gauge raises to 100%, one character can perform their own special attack, and when it raises to 400%, all 4 characters can perform their own special attack. Hitting the enemy's weakness will raise it faster, taking damage from an enemy will decrease the gauge. With the gameplay out of the way, let's now take a look at the game's graphics and audio. I love the graphics. The chibi looking sprites are super cute, and the anime cutscenes are really cool. Now, Mayura, I don't really know how you're doing it, but your feet are literally in the ground. Guys, the clipping in this game is bad, but it's okay, I promise. I'm not triggered by it, it's just a little disgusting, and to be honest, it kinda takes away from the pretty graphics. As for the game's audio, this game is playable with both English and Japanese voice acting. The English isn't the best, but it's not bad either. I do wish there was an auto feature where the dialogue would just play on its own, and it might actually sound like it flows a little bit better if they had this in. Music, on the other hand, is pretty good, as it is done by the same composer of the Star Ocean games, so that's definitely a plus. Now let's take a look at the pros and cons based on my experience and personal opinion with this game. First, some pros would include a good story. I love the characters, I love their personality, and I enjoy their backstories. There's beautiful graphics, and the music is really good. As for the cons, I'm not a huge fan of the battle system, but I think it's because I didn't level up the classes for the characters that I have, so I feel like I'm just kind of stuck level grinding, and it takes away from me enjoying the story. Overall, Exist Archive was nothing like I expected. I was super hyped to play this game, as I thought I would enjoy it. Of course, going in blind and playing it for the first time, I feel like I might have hyped it up a little bit too much. I wanted a huge open world that I can explore and fight monsters and enjoy a good story. Obviously, I only got half of that, as the story is good, but fighting is super tedious, and this is a side-scrolling platformer RPG. I will admit, I was having fun with it at first, but about halfway through, I just kinda got tired of it. It has nothing to do with the story, because like I said, it's good, and even the characters are enjoyable, but I can't handle the gameplay. I think if I knew what type of gameplay this game had, and if I knew about the skill level ups, I would have had an easier time with this game, as I could have leveled up the classes and gotten much farther than what I did. But with that being said, I am going to have to give this game a rating of 6 out of 10. If you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like and comment your opinion or suggestions down below. I have one video left before my 100th video live stream extravaganza, so follow me on Twitter for more information on when that's going to be. Also, feel free to support me on Patreon for extra goodies. This has been a Gaming Goddess review, and remember to keep on gaming.